Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we talk about all things good, the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Zach, and we got a fantastic show today where we're going to take a trip down the memory road and learn some things and figure it all out and see where we end up. However, I can't do this one alone, so as always, I'm joined by Rafe. Rafe, how you doing?
Zach, I am fantastic. I was just thinking as you were doing that introduction, I was like, Zach, that's what we do every week. We have a fantastic show where we do that sort of stuff. So
Where we make it up as we go along?
we make it up. You know what? Sometime we should do this, Zach. I thought we should just start the recording when we start the pre-production meeting.
I've debated that multiple times, but I don't want to edit that. So
I don't want to. Well, no, just not edit it. Show people what they, how the craft of editing results in the priceless top line entertainment they get on a weekly basis from us. Hey, listeners, thank you for being here. It is a great day to do a podcast and chat with you guys. We are grateful that you are here. And thanks for listening to us everywhere you are. We're on Bufnagle at bufnagle.com. You can send us email. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Witcher, Switcher, all sorts of other places. Zach, we are so many places. We're like, did I tell you this? I bought a new pair of shoes the other day, and you know how you do that? You take the shoes, you take them out of the box, and they're stuffed with paper, and they got the cardboard on there, and I always have to relace the laces because they always put the laces in like some sort of way that it looks pretty if they're sitting on the shelf, but they're, so I was doing that, taking them all apart, and then these shoes had like insoles that would go in and out so you can clean them so they don't smell bad. And I took out the insole and I looked right there on the bottom of the insole. You know what it said? It said, "Listen to the Buff." Zach, we are everywhere out there. Everybody knows where we are. Hey, tell a friend to listen, and you will get a free episode. And if you are new to the podcast, hey, give us 4 episodes and see if we don't give you a reason to come back. We're talking about lots of things. Surely something will resonate with you. And remember, this is the best part. If you subscribe and you give us a 5-star written review on Apple Podcast, hey, that really helps us. And you know what we get, Zach? I get pudding, and you get
a bunch of brownies.
There you go. That's where we are.
Yeah, so today we're actually going to do something that's relevant to culture. If you're unaware, the NCAA tournament, as of this recording, started on Thursday. This episode will come out on Tuesday. So the first weekend of the NCAA tournament will have been eclipsed. So that gives us a good option to, let's talk about it, the history of it, but more importantly, the understanding of tournaments, why we have tournaments, and certain things like seeding, the fun numerical things that come from seeding, and, everything else in between.
Yeah, this is I guess my memory of this NCAA tournament thing starts in March of 1977, Zach. And the reason it does is I grew up in Wisconsin, and my mom is a proud alumni. She went and graduated from Marquette University, and in 1977, in March, the Marquette Warriors defeated somebody in the national championship game, and there was a big party, and it was really a sad thing because my mom was very upset because when the plane returned to Billy Mitchell Field in Milwaukee, the students were at the airport, and apparently they trashed the airport waiting for the team to arrive, and there was a big scandal, and it was really bad. But I learned that this tournament was a thing back then. It was I was in 7th grade, and we didn't do a lot of sports stuff when I was a kid. My dad wasn't really big in that. And this is when I learned that this tournament was actually a thing. And then I started following it in full detail when I was in college. And then since then, it has become a staple of my springtime sports entertainment.
Yeah, I grew up with it. I think from a very young age because I had, you as my father. But I remember when I was, 5, 6, 7, you would fill out a bracket. and I had no idea what I was doing. So I used mascot theory, which was if the two teams' mascots faced each other, who would win? So the Wildcat versus the
The
not the
duck,
Wildcat. The Wildcat's going to win.
the ducklings, right?
Yeah,
Is that what
yeah,
you're
yeah.
getting
The
at?
Wildcat's going to beat up the Duckling, but so you get the fun hypothetical game that you get to play of the which mascot would beat up the other mascot, which is just humorous on many levels. But like I did that, and then obviously as I grew older, I fell in love with the tournament, which happened to me falling in love with the Gonzaga basketball team, which led to me going to Gonzaga. And well, like they say, the rest is history, and that kind of started my journey to where I am today and things that have impacted my life as a whole. But more importantly, the tournament produces one thing that we both love, and that is chaos in, well, tenfold.
Yeah, zaniness is a thing. Like if like I love to watch the teams that I like. I like to watch them win. But in general, I'll take zaniness and chaos over predictability and the blue bloods winning everything. We love the upsets, and we have both witnessed. Zach Gonzaga used to be considered one of those mid majors that got they've been in like 24 straight years, 27, like a zillion years in a row now, 23.
21, 23, something in that range. Additionally, there are only
He's
seven
counting.
teams that have more number one seeds in school history than Gonzaga.
Yeah, that really surprised me. I didn't realize they were a number one seed that many times.
5 of the past 9 years, they have been the number one seed of the West region.
Well, that's really incredible. And now some people can say, well, they play in the West Coast Conference, and that sucks. But you know what? Hey, they win the games they're supposed to play. They play anybody on the road, anywhere. And you know what? If you do that, you get invited to this tournament. Now, this tournament, Zach, has been around for a long time, longer than 1977.
Longer than
It's
you. And
longer than I've been around.
Dirt? No, not as long as Dirt.
Not as long as Dirt. It's a little bit younger than Dirt. It's about as old as my just about as old as my parents, Zach. The NCAA tournament started in 1939. Are you hearing those sirens?
That's outside my apartment. Yeah.
Nice, nice. That's great. All right, so I hear the tournament started in 1939, and there were originally 8 teams in that tournament, and the winner of that first tournament, Zach, was whom?
Not Gonzaga.
No, it was not. It was the Oregon Ducks. They beat Ohio State, the Ohio State University in that first year, and it was only 8 teams then, and it has grown. By 1951, it was 16 teams. It took its present form around 1985 with the conference champions. Whatever the conference wants to send, they can send it. They could say we are going to send the loser of our tournament. They could say that, and that would be their automatic bid. It used to be up until a couple of years ago that teams would send their regular season champion, but sometimes they send their conference tournament champion, which I don't know, can be good or bad. It's bad if you're a bubble team. It's good if you want to have if you don't have a chance to win the regular season. But there
It
are
gives you
30.
gives you hope.
Yeah. There's 32 conference champions now and 36 at-large bids, give you a total of 68 teams, which is not a nice power of 2. It's 64 plus 4, and that's because they promised there'd be 36 at-large bids, and there's 32 conferences now, and that's where we are. Zach, you know about the NIT, right? The not
National Invitational Tournament.
Yeah, sometimes it's called the not invited tournament or the not important tournament, and that's kind of sad because the NIT was around actually before the NCAA tournament, 1938, and the NIT used to get lots of press simply because it was in New York City, right? The last couple rounds were played at Madison Square Garden, and that was always a big draw up until it was 1970, Zach, that the Marquette Warriors again turned down an NCAA bid to go to the NIT, and that was the last time somebody actually did that. And it was interesting because that was that made it difficult for the NCAA, and they kind of changed the rules after that to make it bad for you to try to take an NIT. And now the NIT is kind of like is the second tier. It's the next 32 teams after the 64 have been picked, and it has lost its luster, which is unfortunate. But that's I don't know. That's the way life goes. Did you know that that CCNY, City College of New York, they won both the NIT and the NCAA tournament in 1950?
Yeah.
Yeah, go figure that one out, huh?
Maybe
All
that's
right.
what
Well,
we need
anyway.
to do. We have the Bufnagle Tournament of Champions.
Well, you could do that, right? If you can invite.
You know what? We need a college football bowl game. If you would like Bufnagle to sponsor a college football bowl game, please contact legal@bufnagle.com. We'll get back to you in 4 to 7 hours, probably.
Probably 4 to 7 hours. Yeah, we're pretty good at that. Or 4 to 7 days, or 4 to 7 years. So we will get back to you at some point in time. Can you imagine the Bufnagle Bowl, Zach?
That'd be so much fun. There'd be like a little frog on the field.
That would be good. You know what? There's enough college football bowl games that we could probably pull that off.
Yeah, that says a lot about college football bowl games.
Well, there. Okay, back in the old days, there was a bowl game in Dayton, Ohio. All right, I know this because I went to school in Dayton, and there was a game in Dayton, Ohio called the Aviation Bowl or the Aviator Bowl, something like that. And the last year they had it, it was, think about it, New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, whatever it is, right around Christmas time, Dayton, Ohio. Okay, it
Yeah.
was like there were like 10 feet of sleet that day, and the field was frozen, and nobody came to the game, and it was terrible. And then they were like, enough of that, we're done. Bowl games should be in nice warm places that are fun to go to in the middle of winter. So the Bufnagle Bowl game will not be held in Indianapolis or in Minneapolis. But could we get that indoor arena up there, Zach, for the
The
Bufnagle
U.S.
Bowl?
Bank Stadium where
Yeah,
the Packers beat the Vikings once a year.
that's pretty much the plan. I bet we could get that. We could get that place.
Yeah.
So,
Anyways, back to the topic.
oh, yeah, yeah.
NCAA tournament you mentioned is 68 teams, but in its glory heyday, claim to fame, starting in 1985, it was 64 teams, which is a super interesting number you mentioned already because it's a power of two, but you also get some fun math things that play out as well because the bracket is broken down into 4 sub brackets of 16 teams.
Yeah, so there's 4 regions, all right, and they started with this idea of regions back like in the late 70s. They started calling them regions. There's like the East region and the Southeast region and the Midwest region and the West region, and each of those teams has 16 teams, and they are all seeded 1 through 16, and you have a classic single elimination tournament in each of those little groups, and the winners of those 4 regional tournaments, all right, that's actually a thing to win. Winning the regional is a thing. All right, it's better than just winning the first round. All right, you win a thing, you win a trophy, you get your East Regional Champion or Midwest Regional Champion, and then you go to a special little 14 tournament called the
Final Four, which is hosted, big venue, everyone comes to it. It's an event, and it should be an event. It's you're celebrating the end of the season, the end of the spectacle, however you want to call it, and that's the Final Four, which is the final 4 teams. Hopefully, it's the 4 1 seeds because then you get some fun math with that as well. But sometimes you get some fun runs happen, and a team with a 7 seed or an 8 or a 9 pops their way on in, and a little chaos likes to follow.
Yeah, speaking of chaos, so an upset. So like, okay, let's make sure we use these words right. When we talk about a team that's really good, they get a 1 seed, okay, and that's a low number, but that's called a high seed, right? You got to start numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down from top to bottom, okay? So the
Yeah, if
low,
it's higher up on the paper, it's good.
right, and you start with number 1 and you write down, right? So even though 1 is the low number, it's a high seed. So the really good teams get the 1 seeds, all right, and that's a real badge of honor. They always brag about getting the 1 seed. But the best thing about the 1 seed is the easiest route to get to the Final Four because you get to play the teams that have the lowest seeds, which are the
Yep.
highest
Or
numbers.
hypothetically, you do.
Yeah, and that's the thing about seeding that is so fundamentally important. You get like I always wondered that when I was a kid is that why don't they just throw them all in there? Why do they have to seed them? And the answer is because you want to have a tournament that gives you the most drama. Okay, if you just randomly threw the teams in there, you might have the 2 best teams playing each other in the first round, and then at that point the number 2 seed's out, the number 1 seed goes on most likely, and just cleans the board with those so that the games don't get more exciting as you go on. So you need to earn your way to get a good seed, all right, and then the better seeded teams tend to win, but not always, and that's where you get upset.
Yeah, and additionally, before we move on and talk about upsets, because I think that we could talk about that as this psychological concept, really, more than anything, is this: the first round of games is the 1 plays the 16, the 8 plays the 9, and so on and so forth. The 2 plays the 15, 7 plays the 10, 4 13. You can do the math. You give x plus y equals 17 is the mathematical problem that ends up. And then what happens in the next round is it's x plus y equals 9. And that follows down until you get to the end of the regions, where hopefully all the 1 seeds make it through. And the final 4 is left with 4 1 seeds. So you have a 2. So those 2 games are a 2. All those games add to 2. And then hopefully the best number 1 wins in the end. And it's a fun mathematical thing that plays out. But additionally, if all of the bad teams would win, you would have rounds, instead of the second round being adding to 9, they would add to 25. So the 16 team would play the 9 seed, and that adds to 25. The 15 seed would play the 10 seed, and that adds to 25. And it's the same problem again. X plus y equals 25. You do the math, and you figure out which team is which is a fun little
and
thing to do.
If the lower seed teams keep winning, then the next round you get 29, right?
Yep.
And at the end, the last round, you'd get the 15 playing the 16, which would be 31.
Right, and then in the final 4, you have 4 16 teams, which is 32.
And so it all adds up, but backwards, right? And the backwards is you subtract from 31. So the first round, it's 2 to the 4th plus 1, right? So it's 16 plus 1. And the second round is 2 to the 3rd plus 1. And the third round is 2 to the 2nd plus 1. And the third round is 2 to the 1st plus 1. All right. But going the other way, if you have the worst teams winning, the numbers are like you said, Zach. It's 17, 25, 29, 31, and that the factor there is you take 32 and you subtract off 2 to the n minus 1. So you take 32 minus 16 minus 1, and then 32 minus 8 minus 1, and then 32 minus 4 minus 1, and 32 minus 2 minus 1. So if you like that kind of stuff, if that's the kind of math that turns you on, all right, no, because there's different kinds of math that turns on different kinds of people, right? And if you just like adding and subtracting your checkbook, then, well, that's good math, but that's okay. This is called combinatorics, and there's a whole science of math that deals with these kinds of fancy numbers and how they come out in things like tournaments and pairings and counting stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. And you see that, you see it in, NFL playoffs have their own version of it. NHL playoffs has it. NBA playoffs, they have it. But they're all different. They're all unique. And they're what makes the tournament, that playoff style thing, fun. Additionally, the NCAA tournament is a winner take all type scenario. It's you win and you move on. There's no second chance. There's no double elimination. There's no, you get to restart the game because you're better, but you lost, so you get to roll the dice again. No, it's
no best of 5, no best of 7.
Yeah, you show up, you play, and it's best of the best of the best, sir.
Yes, it is. And
whoever wins is the best of the best of the best.
Right, and it's a single elimination tournament, so you don't get a chance to. So, and this is why seeding really matters. Okay, is you don't want to have. It is bad for everybody if teams are misseeded. Now, in the NCAA tournament, there's a committee of individuals that select the teams to go in. And Zach, when I was in college, our athletic director was chairman of the NCAA selection committee, right? And that was a really wonderful thing because I got to chat with him about how these things work. And it turns out that what they do is you make it into the tournament on the basis of your what do they call it? Your full body of work.
Yep.
What have you done during the season?
What have you done for me lately?
Right. But the lately covers November through the end of your conference tournament. That's your lately. All right. And all of that is taken into account completely. Games you won by a point in November count just the same as a game you won by a point in March. Okay. So that is your full body of work, as they say. Okay. That's how you get into the tournament. But you get seeded in the tournament based upon how likely you are to win, how good you are. Okay. So if you have a team
full of me and you, we're going to do pretty good.
Yeah, well,
bad.
It depends on who we're going to play, Zach. You got to consider the competition. So if you have a team that went, let's pick a terrible scenario. All right, that they have the world's greatest team. They're 29-0 going into the conference tournament. They're flying to the conference tournament, and the plane goes down. I mean, that happened at Marshall, right? We had the football team. But if that would happen, that team was 29-0. They would, I don't know, the athletic director would scramble together a group of people to go play the conference tournament game. Those guys would get slaughtered because of whatever reason. All right, now they're 29-1. All right, they would make it into the tournament based on the full body of work. They're 29-1. They would make it in, no problem. But now the team is composed not of the people who won 29 games, but of the yahoos off the bench and that they pulled out of the library at the last minute to play these games. These guys would not be seeded well, right? Because the seeding is based upon how likely you are to win those games, right? So, and the converse could be there as well. Maybe you have a team that's got a great, pair of great players, and they both are injured, but they come back in late February. They finish, I don't know, you finish 14-16, but you win the conference tournament and you get in, but now you are in, and you have, let's say you have Shaq, Kobe,
Magic Johnson,
Larry Bird, and MJ.
Stockton.
Yeah, and Stockton on the bench, right? So the question is, where are you going to seed those guys? All right, they are in. Now that they're in, you're going to give them a great seed because you know that team's likely to take it all the way. So seeding is based on how you're going to do. Inclusion is going to be on how you have done, and those are separate pieces that have to be taken into account. And okay, so I want to go back to this single and double elimination thing. All right, and this is going to get a little tricky here for a little.
We mentioned earlier the in a single elimination where you're seated matters, but in the double it doesn't necessarily matter because the good teams will rise to the top. I slightly disagree with that. I think seeding does still matter. If I'm the best team, I should not be playing the second best team in the first round. Even in a double elimination tournament, and the dice rolls are the dice rolls, however it may be. But the best game of the tournament should not be that game. That first round game.
It's going to show up somewhere, right?
Yeah.
One is going to play two somewhere. You'd like to have one play two,
as late as possible.
As late as possible, right? Because you want to make that, you want to have the drama build up to that. But that's the interesting thing, though, because okay. So when we talk about teams being better than other teams, right? If I say that Team A is better than Team B, what that means, at least from a statistics point of view, is that the probability that Team A will beat Team B is more than 50%. Okay, that's what it means to be better, is that you have your probability of victory is above 0.5. Okay, now if you're a lot better, that probability of victory might be 0.9, all right, or 0.99, something like that. All right, but still, that's how you can tell a team is better. And it's not that they're, afterwards you're going to get a piece of data that says whether or not they really did win. You can take, you can have a team that has a 60% chance of victory. You can have them lose. That happens, right? What do they say? Any given team on any given day. Right? But if you are
if you play them 10 times, they might win 9.
They might win 9, but not tonight, right? So that's called that produces, all right, that probability of victory thing produces a thing in statistics called stochastic ordering, meaning how good you are is influenced by your probability of victory. Now, it doesn't mean when you play the games that the winners are always going to come up in that order. But we know going in that the probability is going to be there. So what we'd really like to do is when we do tournaments and we do games, we're trying to estimate that order. We'd like to know who's best.
And also, while doing that, we're trying to increase the fun factor for spectators, people who are engaged in it on the outside, so they get enjoyment. It's no enjoyment to watch, choose whatever you want to do as a entertainment form. They beat up on the other. That's not fun. Like no one gets enjoyment that. So you want to create some variability. Yeah, maybe early in a round of a tournament that's going to happen. But the later you go, you want to have that increased factor of like this is going to be fun and exciting.
Yeah, sometimes these games of 1 against 16, they're not fun to watch. They're just the only thing that makes them fun to watch is if the 16 team is getting ready to hand it to the 1. All right, that's what does it, right? We love upsets because we like to know what it's like. We know what it's like to be the little guy. Most of us know what it's like to be the little guy.
Most of us are the little guy.
A lot. You know what? I would say in almost every endeavor, we are almost all the little guy. There are very few of us who are the big guy. So what's interesting, Zach? Okay, let's just say we have a tournament with 4 teams. Okay, you got Team A. You got A, B, C, and D. You have 4 teams, right?
Yep.
And let's pretend that team A is the best team, team B is the second best, team C is the third best, and team D is the fourth best team. And let's say further that that's a surety. When A plays B, because A is better than B, A will win. And when B plays C, B will win. And when C plays D, C will win. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
So whenever a better one plays a worse one, they will, unless they say sure. Okay. And let's say you drop those teams, you just randomly drop them into a single elimination tournament.
Okay.
Let's say you do that. Now it turns out you will get 3 pieces of data out of that tournament. All right. You will get the score from the first game. Two teams will play. The score from the second game, and then you get the score from the championship game. Okay. Now it turns out if you don't know A, B, C, and D, who is best and worst or whatever, right? You can think of this tournament before you go in that there are really 24 possible ways these 4 teams can be ranked. Right?
Yep.
Could be A, B, C, D. Could be A, B, D, C. A, C, B, D. Oh, you can list them all. There's 24 of them. You can list them if you want to. Hit pause and list them all.
And send a picture to us, and if you do, you'll get a surprise in the mail.
Right. We'll send you a surprise.
That's this week's challenge.
Yeah, send us the list of all 24, and we will send you a surprise. As all we need is your address, your social security number, and your bank account. That's all we need. We'll just deposit
and
right
your
in.
middle name while we're at it.
Yeah, and your middle name. Okay, but if you do that, Zach, okay, there's a thing in stats called Bayes' theorem. Okay? And what we can do is we can say, before you start this tournament, all those 24 rankings that you have, that you've written down, they're all equally likely. You could make that assumption. They're probably not equally likely, but given the information you have. Right? And there's Bayes' theorem says, all right? Bayes' theorem says that what you can do is to figure out which of those rankings are the best rankings. You just see which of those data are consistent with the ranking. Okay? So if I have a ranking that has A, D, B, C. So A is best, and then D, and then B, and then C.
Yep.
All right? And then C plays D. And C win.
Yep.
Well, that ranking doesn't make any sense because it had C last and it had D first. So you can scratch that one out. Okay? So if you take your little tournament and you write it down and you play those 3 games, you will eliminate, and you can do this, no matter which way you lay out that tournament, you will eliminate 21 of those 24 possible outcomes. You'll be left with 3 outcomes that we would say are tenable.
All right.
Okay? Right now, all of those outcomes will have the eventual winner at the first spot.
Yep.
All right? And the other 3 outcomes will have various permutations of those other 3 consistent with the orderings of what they have. Okay? You can have that. Now, if you do exactly the same thing, but you play a double elimination tournament, you will get extra games.
Which means you have more data points.
More data points.
Cross off.
And you will cross off more of those potentials. You know what will happen? When you're done with the double elimination, you will have 1 left. You will have 1 possible ordering left. Right? That's why the double elimination is better than the single elimination if you're not worried about seeding. Now, you can
eventually it will work out. But additionally, with double elimination tournaments, if you win that loser bracket that you make it through, and then you beat the top team that made it through the winner's bracket, you're not done yet because they've lost once and you've lost once. So whoever gets that second loss is, the first loser.
Yeah, and that's right. It's the first loser.
And you see this all the time in many different types of formats and tournaments that use a double elimination style. It's a great tournament. Everything's been fun. That loser bracket team, they made their way. They defeated. And then you're just left with this okay, now what?
Wait! They don't let the loser play the winner.
Oh, they let the loser play the winner, but then the loser wins.
Oh yeah, they got to play again. Well, see, okay,
but you need to play again. College baseball does this very well. The College Baseball World Series.
They do it right.
They do it. Yeah, they do the elimination, and then they will have I believe it's a a 3-game set or something like that. At the end, the loser against the winner. After there's 8 teams that go to I believe it's 8 teams that goes to the college baseball World Series, and then at the end you're left with 2, one that made it through the losers bracket and one that made it all the way through the winners bracket, and then they play each other. If the loser bracket wins, they have another 1-game playoff, I believe.
A 1-game playoff, okay.
Yeah, they do something like that. And I remember South Carolina had a string of really good teams in the early 10s. And one of those teams carried their way through the losers bracket. They made it through, and they're like, all right, cool, we got one more, we got to go battle. And it's a psychological thing too. We can talk about psychologicals of it, the psychological feats of us upsets, but also that mental grind and fortitude of hey, we got to keep working, keep going through things. You see that a lot in these tournaments.
In Tennessee, they used to do that with the baseball tournaments, and I think, the baseball tournaments. I don't think they did it in the basketball tournaments, but they did it in the baseball tournaments to determine the state. But there's multiple levels before state. They would have sub-district and then district and then sub-region and then region, and every one of those was a little 4-team tournament that was a bad double elimination tournament. So they would have that where the winner and the losers would play each of those 4. They'd have a 4-team tournament, and the winner of the winners bracket and the winner of the losers bracket would go on to face each other. But they would let the winner of the losers bracket go on if they won just one more game against the winner. They didn't make them win 2. And it was really bad because if you do the math on that one, you don't get them all eliminated.
Yep.
You don't get them all eliminated. You have to play the final game. So just keep that in mind. If you're running a double elimination tournament, you can do that. Now, there are other wacky tournaments, and this happens a lot in college basketball. They will give teams buys to further advance them. So if you got 12 teams, you're going to have to give 4 of them a bye in the first round because you don't have you can't fill out the 13, 14, 15, 16.
Yep.
Right? But there are some I forget what tournament I saw. It's the top 4 teams got buys to the quarters. All right, they were already into the quarterfinals. So, right, and the other ones had it was this string of adding enough. The 8-9 would play each other, and the winner of that would have to play 7. The winner of that would have to play 6. The winner of that had to play and in order to get there from the 7 or 8 and 9 position, it was you had to win 6 straight games, whereas the top 4 only. And at some point, I believe in giving advantage to the teams that have earned it with the seeding, but at some point it becomes that ain't right. That ain't right. You ought to get.
There's ways to do it well. There's ways to do it poorly. It's just you have to, there's give and take. But again, I think that leads us to our last point that we're going to make here, and that's I'm going to call it the psychology of an upset. Teams are seeded; they are what they are. But when it comes push to shove, people are playing. They're making decisions. They're playing the game, and they can control the outcome. And that means if a guy gets hot and he goes off for 37 points, hitting 12 threes or whatever it may be, you gotta stop him if you want to hold your own and say that you are that number 3 seed that maybe deserved the number 2 seed.
Yeah, the upset is an interesting thing. There's 1970, Zach, ACC tournament. South Carolina was something like 8-0, all right, coming into the tournament. They were the 3rd best team in the country. And the ACC, very early on, ACC decided to send their conference tournament champion to the NCAA tournament. And the regular season champion, well, that's nice, but you got to win the tournament. And what happened in 1970, the South Carolina Gamecocks played NC State, and they lost in double overtime. 42-39. So this is 1970, Zach. Double overtime. The over under at 82 was still under. Okay, it was under in double overtime. So South Carolina didn't get to go to the tournament, even though they were the 3rd best team in the country. They didn't get to go play for the national championship, and NC State got to go in their place. And South Carolina came in this. This was 1970. It wasn't 1932. Okay, so these scores, people regularly scored 60, 70, 80 points. North Carolina slowed it way, 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 way down. Okay, if you've ever watched some of these old games, they're just excruciating to watch because sometimes teams would just stand at half court with the ball. They just stand there and hold the ball. you got to come out and play active defense against me. I'm not going to dribble. There's no shot clock. So South Carolina got stuck by the North Carolina State. Got stuck by their slowdown game, and they
pokey
lost
levels
it.
of play.
The pokey levels of play. But you know what else I learned? Okay, so I was reading the article about this last week. I read the old newspaper article. On the next page was a description. You know what happened on March 8th, 1970, the afternoon of that game?
I'm thinking there was a solar eclipse.
There was a solar eclipse. Bob, here's your call out.
Did you know Bob, we're going to do a solar eclipse episode next week, so we'll see you then.
Yeah. But you know what? I'll bet Bob remembers that solar eclipse. 1970, he was a young teen, maybe. I bet he was like, Mom, Dad, can I go to North Carolina and watch the solar eclipse? They were like, no, Bob, you have to stay home and study your algebra. Something like that. So, anyway, that's...
he could tell us that story next time we get America's favorite rocket scientist back on.
All right, so, but upsets. Upsets are caused when a team that has a lower than 50% probability of victory come through with the win. And if a team if it's 48-52 with percentages, that's not a very big upset. The really big upsets are when a team has like a 98% chance of winning and they don't pull through. And that is that's always a fun thing to watch unless you are the team that's supposed to win it.
It creates tension, it creates chaos, but more than anything, it creates enjoyment for us as the fans witnessing that and being able to be a part of that, because it creates memories and moments that, if they win, no one's going to remember the win, but like the upset, everyone remembers like, hey, where were you? Where
were you when that upset was? And you know what? Those memories, I see the smile on your face right now. Those memories make us rich. The games you guys played when you were little kids and you beat the good team, or the games where Zach, I was not a very good tennis player, but my junior year, we were playing in a tournament and we were up against the 1 seed, and we took them to 3 sets. And I tell you, by the start of the 3rd set, there were like crowds around the court. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever been a part of. And we didn't win it, but we took that 1st set from them.
Yep.
And I tell you, that created this tension. I've never had tension in a tennis match like I did in that match. It was really, really funny. And it's a great thing. It's a thing we remember. It's what makes us rich.
Yeah, it's going to provide a memory. It's going to provide joy, regardless of where that tournament was, where that upset was, or where that memory was made. Maybe it was a dance recital thing. Maybe it was a piano competition. Whatever it may be, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and it's a great thing to be a part of. So, again, I want to thank all of you for listening. I want to remind you to go seek the good, be the good, and spread the good. Enjoy the adventure of life.